Shooters, you are now in your prep time. Your prep time has ended. With the magazine of 15 rounds making the additional one weapon. Is the line ready? The line is ready. Shooters firing 5 rounds in a time limit of 60 seconds. Stand by. Contact. Stand by. Contact. Cease fire. Stand by. Contact.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, back after a little week break. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on all social media platforms. We got a special guest hailing in from Pensacola, Florida. Right? A free state. But before we get there, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. The only way that this gets any further or goes any further is you follow, like, and subscribe. And let me know how I'm doing. Any criticism is good criticism. But let's get right into it. We got a special guest by the name of Chief Warrant Officer 2, Godfrey Burrell. Sir, good afternoon.
Hey, what's going on, brother? How you living?
Oh, living better now that you're on.
Better now. And it's definitely a blessing to be here with you. And, like Gunny G said, wherever you get your podcast, like, follow, subscribe, so you can always get the good info, good word of the day.
I like that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sir, I appreciate it. Now that the formalities are done, we go a little bit back, right? We go way back, right? But let the listeners know where you're at, where you're coming from, how long you've been in, duty stations, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, man, before we actually get started, so Big Gunny G and I, we definitely go way back, from the beginning. When I say beginning, MCRD, Harris Island beginning, PA school beginnings. So it's just awesome just to see how, we all blossom into these, grown men doing great things. But like you said, my name is Chief Warrant Officer Burrell. Been in the Marine Corps since 2010. Definitely a blessing to be here. Definitely seen, many installations, had many challenges, good and bad. Right now I'm in Pensacola, Florida, working here at the Consolidated Personnel Administrative Center, which, most major installations know as the IPACs, the RPACs, things like this, down here supporting the aviation student pipeline for both officer and enlisted. Originally from Atlanta, Georgia, but, since I joined the Marine Corps at the age of 18, hadn't traveled back there as much as I should. But definitely like to know, I'm out here exploring, doing great things. So,
man, that's awesome. Yeah, we do go way back for PA school. And I tell you what, I remember looking at you, you're a stocky fellow, right? And then you smashed me in the run. I go, what the frick? He goes, yeah, I can run a little bit. I was like, dude, yes, you can,
don't
son.
count the big boys out. You know what I'm saying? Don't count the big boys out.
Yeah, I know. He took off on me. I'm like, man, I thought I was good. No, this was. I definitely stereotyped and underestimated. But yeah, man, I appreciate you getting on, and let's get right into it, man. We're talking about struggles of single parenting in the military, and again, we can only talk about the Marine Corps. The most stressful, highest top tempo. So we got a good standard, at least a little window to talk about single parenting. And fortunately or unfortunately, whatever you want to say, I do know your ex baby mama or whatever you want to label it. I know her. I know who she is, right? I know your son, not personally, but I know of your son, right, through you. And so let's get right into it, man. I know that it's a struggle. I remember when you and Lacey. Macy. That's it. Hey, if she's listening, my bad. I knew it was something around the ACs, right? My bad. Exactly. I apologize. But Macy, yeah. So let's get. How does those single parents in the military? How does it affect you daily life, right? From the beginning, man. Look, from PA school all the way through now.
Yeah, man. So I guess for me, I had a very unique challenge. Initially, starting off my career, a dual military household, and then Jaden's mom, Macy, transitioned out of the military. Once she transitioned out of the military, that presented its own challenges. And then we had I was in 29 Palms, she was in Tampa, Florida. So again, created some challenges. And at the time, Jaden was living with her. And I guess to rewind back a little bit, I have 2 children. Jaden, who's 12, he's in middle school, so that comes with its own struggles. And then I have a 2-year-old daughter, Elizabeth, who lives with her mom out in South Carolina. So again, like I said, I've always had a unique experience dealing with the dual military household, then the split household, and now, a single household. And I think the challenge that came the most hard for me to manage was the initial portion of my career, and balancing, being a Marine, being a father, being my own person, being a friend, mentor, leader, and juggling all those different hats. I think that was the hardest for me because as Marines, we take on more than we can always, manage, we always try to be, Mr. I got it, Miss, I don't need no help, whatever the case may be. So I think for me, that's been one of the most challenging. And now I'm on the other side of the house, where I can be that leader, to gauge, different Marine scenario and work that piece out. It's definitely a unique experiences. And I've definitely established some biases and boundaries, on both, good and bad, dealing with that. And I think the thing that helped me through those unique challenges the most is, my support system. And, for you, you have 2 children, correct? 4. Oh man, you've been putting in some work.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you I had 2 more. My bad.
Yeah, no worries. But again, I don't feel like whether you're, a household with 2 parents or 1 parent, I don't believe the resources change based off of your, status household.
Ooh.
So just taking the time to, remind ourselves that, parents are parents, whether you're 1 parent, 2 parents, taking on the responsibility, of those around you.
Mm-hmm.
Like the resources are, pretty much the same, and it's not going to change, just because, hey, you're a single parent. I guess that's something to think of, and keeping yourself mindful that if you're not willing to put yourself out there to create those bonds and friendships, I know that's my hardest challenge. I'd rather walk 10 miles down the street to the airport than ask anybody for a ride. So that's a challenge in itself, so I think the way you can make it through, challenging times is, like always, the network you build, and the relationship you have with your unit, your commander, those leaders in your corner.
That's good, man. That's good. So, I would venture to disagree with whether you're single or dual or mom and dad present, that you have the same resources. I don't know if that's a valid point or a statement. Only because let me explain. I come from one active duty military, and my wife's a civilian. Right? You are active duty. Macy was active duty. Now she's out of the. Is that balloons in my? Did you see the balloons?
Yeah.
What the? Did that really happen? Whoa.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to look that
up. Wow, I didn't know that. No, it didn't even. That didn't do it again. Wow. Okay, so it wasn't even. Wow. Anyways, let's keep. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Technical difficulties. It wasn't even user error that time. But anyways, I just because remember, 1 civilian, 1 active duty member. You come from active duty to active duty, and then now just 1 parent dealing with kids that have a split household. I don't think the resources are the same. As a matter of fact, I think that you might have to, bite the bullet in terms of finances. 1, in terms of relationships, building and establishing and staying consistent with relationships. I don't necessarily have the same financial burden. I don't necessarily have the same relationship burden. Okay, that's enough. It's still doing what is going on? All right. I need you to stop doing that, whatever that is that you're doing. I'm sorry, G. I apologize for that. I won't do no hand signals no more. But don't worry, I'll edit it out.
So does your not to interrupt, but does your wife work?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So financial resources, you know, it's a one income household. So when you say resource,
I don't have to pay for CDC and or, you know, early in your Marine Corps career, you had to pay for what?
See, now that Jaden is older, like we don't like, yeah. Now that he's older, you know, that financial burden, you know, that's something else I wanted to discuss, you know, the resources for when my daughter come down, it definitely changes and it shifts. And I wouldn't necessarily say, but again, like if your spouse did work, you know, because I know some military like members whose spouse works, but it only covers, you know, this one thing, you know, but it allows them to have the freedom and latitude, you know, to get out the house and break the monotony of, you know, being a parent, you know, full time.
Of course.
So I think the financial aspects is, you know, I can definitely understand your perspective, but again, that's just me and my scenario.
Yeah.
You know, managing the finance piece, like his mom, you know, still supports, you know, the household, and it's not a one-way street. When he lived with me, you know, I supported, you know, him with her, and now that he's with me, she supports, you know, me for him, you know. Same with my daughter, you know, she comes down, you know, and the support that I give mom, we work out a deal now that we're on the better side of our relationship to where, hey, if she's going to be here, you know, for the entire month, you know, I can't allow her to be here and, you know, pay you the full amount in which I pay you.
Yeah.
Work that piece out. So I think for me, in my situation, the financial aspect of it, you know, I wouldn't necessarily even consider that a resource, you know. It's
not, man. It's a burden. That's why I got you. It's a struggle when in terms of single parenting, man. I'd say I don't have to deal with that. And if I did, it'd probably be amplified because I got 4. Right. And then the idea or the little token slogan is cheaper to keep her, right? Yeah. Keep them or whoever it is, you know, wife, girl, boy, whatever it is that, you know, that it is. But that's why I have you on them struggles. You got to realize that struggle is you and everybody else that's single parenting.
Exactly.
Right. So you got to either you're paying the child support or you're receiving the child support. But either way, somebody's getting the big green weenie. Right. And that goes to my next point. You talked about support systems, right? You never considered it a struggle per se, but in reality, for most service members, it is a struggle financially. And single parents have to balance military duties and parental responsibility. Right? I have in my experience in my short 14 years, I have to deal with young Marines having children. And then not meeting the operational and mission requirements here as the business, as your job, as the organization, because I have to not cater because I love family. I'm all about family first, but you can't do anything on the evening. You can't do anything on the weekend. You can't do any of these things because you chose to have a child either out of wedlock or, you know, the marriage didn't work out like it was supposed to. And so now it's a split household. So now you're a single parent. And so all those struggles that come with it, how do you balance parental duties and military duties in your experience, in your point of view?
Yeah, I think initially in my career, that definitely was a challenge. But again, like as a young Marine, I feel myself, I was a go-getter. You know, I think that mindset has shifted, you know, where I knew, hey, if I was going to be unable to attend, you know, a certain, you know, field evolution, I wasn't able to stand duty, whatever the case may be. You know, I supported where somewhere else I could. You know, it wasn't like, hey, you know, I have a kid, I can never stand duty. It's like, hey, I have a kid, but I can only stand duty on these days. Instead of ducking, you know, the entire responsibility. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, we have to manage. Because like, you know, I have friends that, you know, are in the civilian sector, you know, whether it's being a teacher. If I was a teacher, you know, at the local, you know, county school or the school right up the road, hey, every Monday, you know, I can't make it to work. You know, eventually I'm going to run out, you know, of time off And then what's next? The Marine Corps, we hook each other up and we allow sometimes that negative perspective to shift, our opinions. Because in the civilian world, you can only take off so much. Like the other day, I got a call from my son's school saying, hey, he wore flip-flops to school. We can't do that. So, I didn't have to take off. I didn't have to, put in, 3 hours of time off to go drop him some stuff off and come back to work. And I think even when my Marines face that, hey, I need to go pick up my son from daycare because he has a fever. Roger that. Go ahead, take off. If you need anything, let me know. In the civilian world, guess what you have to do?
Oh, is that you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
you probably got to put some time in. You got to take a lunch. Yeah. Lose some time, lose some money. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think sometimes we fail to acknowledge some of the freedoms, that come with it. And because there are freedoms, we have the choice of human will. Sometimes with that human will, we don't always make the right decision. It's like, hey, I need to go pick up my son. But if that's a constant, I think you need to self-reflect, in a better form, But like you said, the resource you have is like, hey, I call my wife, hey, can you go pick up the kids? I can't leave work right now. And I may not always have that, but I think as a leader of Marines, we have to understand and know our Marines, and help them out where we can. But at the same time, we have to remember, especially now, I'm on the other side, I'm part of they now, They said, we couldn't leave, They said you couldn't, bring your kids to work, Like if I, again, use that scenario, for example, hey, I need to go pick up my child. Can I bring it back to work? If I was a school teacher, I couldn't bring my child in my classroom. Obviously you see it, what I'm saying? But it's not one of those things where it's a constant, like, hey, like during COVID, hey, I need to bring my child to work. Like it's just one of those things where, in the civilian sector, I don't agree, whether it's, in the business side, entrepreneur, like if I, was an entrepreneur, I couldn't take my child with me, a 3-month-old or a 3-year-old, on my job and say, hey, like, I'm sorry about this, but, people would understand. But again, people have their opinions and perspective. But as far as the operational commitment and the parental commitment, the biggest success that I've had is just through communication, communication and planning. If I know that school is going to be out, on a random day, cool, let me go ahead and put in some leave. Like right now, it's spring break here in Florida, so my son's with his mom, but if he couldn't, go to school or something happened, I would have to take off, or, hey, you're good to go ahead and stay home, and I'll come see you during lunch. But again, if my daughter was here, now the roles are reversed. The CDC on base, they're like, hey, yeah, you can have a spot, but, you're going to have to pay $600 a month, whether she eats here or not. So that's like, man, like really? Like you said, that financial burden. But again, using the scope of resources, and that's another thing I wanted to hit on, after, hitting this is what kind of, resources that are available. Again, they're not for single parents, but they are for parents. Military One Source, they have really great, tools out there. The CDC and like militarychildcare.com, they have the CDCs, which are the on-base resources, and they also have the FCCs, which are like family childcare centers, which is basically like, your wife has an in-home daycare set up. She's established herself, abided by all the rules, and she applied for a position, with the FCC, and now, she can take applicants, from militarychildcare.com. Again, like building those relationships. I have a really good community here in my neighborhood with my neighbors, and they're willing to help me out, whether it's, hey, can you drop Jaden off at school? Can you pick him up? Hey, I'm going to be a little late. Can Jaden come over your house? And things like that. So it's definitely a blessing.
Yeah, that's
that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just definitely a blessing, but it takes a little me getting out of my comfort zone to build that network, with those around me. So it's me breaking down my own personal barriers to say, hey, I need help, who can help me out?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what. So you talk about military service, and Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines alike move every 3, 4, 5 years. And that plays a big toll on family, and especially single parents, right? Can you talk about how deployments, frequent relocations affects the ability to co-parent as a single parent, co-parent as a single parent?
Yeah, I think for me, and, situations alike, those challenges are, always going to be there. Like for me, that's a really tough question to ask, because I have the desire to be, the best Marine I can be, and again, on the other hand, I also have the desire to be the best, father I can be. In regards to like changing duty stations, that communication comes, like I'll be moving next summer. So that coordination is already start to happen to say, hey, I'm moving next to the places that I may be able to go to. What are your thoughts and what are your opinions? Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to just move autonomously. I'm going to just do whatever, Godfrey wants to do. Godfrey wants to go to, China. That's where Godfrey's going. Godfrey wants to go to South America. That's where he's going. It's like, nah, pump the brakes a little bit. Let's work together, coordinate, and do what's best for Jaden. Do what's best for Elizabeth, to make sure that, we're all on the same page and that we're working towards those common goals, to make sure we're good. But again, like, I think that's a tough one, single parent or not, finding a way to cope, help your child cope with constantly losing friends, constantly, like, what's the point of making friends if I'm leaving? You know, like, what's the point of doing this if I know that, the other person maybe, and I think if you don't put things in place so they don't become desensitized and, finding the value of building those relationships, that can lead, because that can lead to them, now in adulthood, it's like, what's the point, and that transition from them being children to now, being adults. So I think that's a tough one. And I guess the last thing to add on that is, hey, Burrell, you got to go to the field this weekend. Hey, like, I'm a single, I'm a single parent, right? And I think looking at it on the other side, not only me as a person, but now as a Marine leader, again, I have to know my Marines. I have to know that, hey, this is what, this person has going on. This is what that person has going on. Let's find the best candidate. And even through that, the best candidate can always be the same person. We must share the burden. Just like the one Marine who doesn't have kids, doesn't have a family. Okay, let's send them. Let's send them. Let them go. They can stand duty on Christmas. What if I wanted to go visit, family, friends? It's like, they're not being affected, by it as much. But I think we must remember that it's not the Marine Corps, but it's those Marine leaders in those positions that cause, those toxic situations. Like, hey, I'm a Marine that never had kids, so I can't relate to you. Like, I don't understand the importance of why you need to be home with your kids. Like, that's not a Marine Corps thing. It's just that Marine leader not understanding and not being able to connect with having kids because they've never been there.
That's good, man, because that leads into my next point. Like, but even then, let's touch on the little point you made. I was talking to a guy named a buddy of mine. We were stationed in Hawaii. Retired First Sergeant Abraham Thompson. He's like, the leaders, Marines, people are the center of gravity. Obviously, right? You've heard that before. But those same Marines that get out, or those same service members that get out, it's not because they don't like the organization. It's the people that they don't like and the people that mess it up for the organization. And that's why most of these, and again, and I could be off, and again, I don't know what happens behind closed doors, down at at where all the politics are played. But I would say that some percentage of those people that get out is because leaders are not trying to play ball with their young service members, right? And I would say that, look, if you're listening and you're a leader and you don't want to play ball, well, you probably should get out, right? You should ask the question, why are you in? If you're not here to be selfless, right? Instead of being selfish with your Christmas, or you're selfish with your Thanksgiving, right? We really got to peel the onion back on that. And I think senior leaders such as us, right, have to really think about, what do we want, right? Because this ain't going to work.
And as leaders, if we as a Marine go to, point A to point B to point C, and everybody does the same, how can I not blame the organization? Because from my perspective, it's like, hey, the organization is producing these kind of leaders, so maybe it is the organization.
Woo.
But you find a connection between that one person that, can navigate, through your individual circumstances, instead of being, hey, one size fit all. But again, I think that takes time, passion to be able to know your Marines, learn who and what they are, engage their abilities and capabilities to, employ them in the right situation.
Man, that's good, G. Ouch. If there is a trend, then it maybe is. Oh boy, if you're listening, don't get butt hurt. If the shoe fits, wear it and walk 1,000 miles in it. But, yeah, man, that's crazy. It's something to think about, because, I was saying one side, but here's the other, right? It's crazy to think that if it is a trend and it is every duty station that you experience the same type of leader, then maybe we really should consider, is it the people or the organization that are making these type of people and then now forcing these other type of people to get out? That's crazy, man. Single parent. Oh boy, someone's going to get in trouble today. I'll tell you what. I'm going to get a lot of nasty little DMs because of UG. But anyways, hey, opinion is opinion. We'll execute thoroughly indoctrinated Marines. We'll execute accordingly anyways. But there are some, I don't like using discrimination. I hate that. I don't like that word. But there are some biases, right, and challenges in the military community with single parents and single parenthood. Have you, in your short, just like my short Marine Corps career, have you experienced any of that as from PFC all the way now to Chief Warrant Officer 2?
Yeah, most definitely. But I guess I'll start off here. I think it's a two-folded problem. Marine, their willingness to convey, their situation, not be afraid of it, and two, on the command, their willingness to understand, the Marine situation. And again, I think we pass up a lot of great opportunities with, different personnel within the Corps, that chooses to, take that big kick left, exit stage, and make that transition because of, leaders that can't comprehend, their own Marine circumstances. And I think leaders must understand that Marines aren't one size fit all. We can't have that status quo of, hey, I treat Marines like Marines should be, and being mindful of that. And I guess, how do I say this? The discrimination piece is always going to be there. Earlier I mentioned, having a leader that just never had kids, always want to work late, come in early, work on the weekends. And again, they have bias because they don't understand that, hey, we have other obligations outside of serving our country. Yes, I had a sidebar.
I like
halftime
it.
Show.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation with a few of my friends a few weeks ago, and we as Marines, we coined the term, we're a Marine 24/7. 10-second reply. Like, what does that mean to you? 10 seconds.
Me? Oh, 24/7. I mean, it means that you're faithful to the organization and its core values and its policies and its doctrine, and that you employ that not only in uniform, but outside of uniform. And that doesn't necessarily mean me like knife handing people drill 24/7 after a 16:30, a normal work day, and I'm popping smoke. Nah, that means that in my daily life, I am doing what the organization is required of me in uniform, and my conduct off duty aligns with the organization. Like, hey, honor, courage, commitment. What am I honoring if I'm dishonoring my wife and kids, right? What am I committed to if I'm not honoring my wife and kids? That kind of thing. That's what 24/7 means. Not like get in uniform 24/7. I'm going to work you through, to the dirt and then see you later after 4 years. No, that's not what that means. That means what you do on a day-to-day, on and off duty, in and out of uniform, should reflect positively to the organization. That's what that means.
Exactly. Although it was more than 10 seconds, I'm not going to fault you.
I had to get it. You asked me a question. I had to get it in.
That was like you said, you can go ahead.
That was a pretty good response if you ask me. I'm just saying.
Yeah, definitely was. But I think, like you mentioned, and at the conclusion of that, particular conversation, we all came to the agreement that it's a mantra. It's something that, like you said, isn't, I have to play and act, like a Marine, hard charter, every 2 seconds. But again, if I find myself in a situation, I'm out at night about to drive in my car and I've been drinking, I'm a Marine 24/7. What does that mean? I make the hard choice and not get in the car, call for support. If I find myself in a sticky situation, it's kind of like, what would Jesus do? Put yourself in a position to always question, the foundation that's been laid, and playing that part, So I guess I bring that up by, understanding that, we have to keep that in mind. And in my opinion, at the forefront, not because we're indoctrinated, because it's just, good, honest, just great values as a person. And, the tools and the resources I've met from, Marines that think that way, not the ones that, again, like want a knife hand every 2 seconds, starch your covers, like that's not the mindset. But it's those who have the honest approach, to stand with me, and make sure that, I'm taken care of. But again, back to the discrimination piece, that sidebar halftime, I thought I was going to be able to reel it back in, but I kind of went off in the loud man.
Nah, man, that's
coming back, man.
That's a good point, though. You talk about 24/7, and now I'm expected to meet operational commitments, tempo, and this, and then leave my child to the wayside for my other active duty parent to figure it out. But that doesn't work that way. It works.
It doesn't.
It doesn't work. I can't meet operational tempo if over here is not good, right? How am I supposed to be good if this is not good and then you want me to do this? It doesn't work that way, right? Even across the branches, I think it's the same issue. It's like, look, leaders, superiors, I wouldn't even say leaders, people in not in leadership roles, people in billets of higher authority, right? Mm-hmm. They think or they don't think, and they say, I need you here. Okay, but do you not know your Marines and seek their welfare and the good of their morale and whatever that is that you're doing? And then in the Army, Air Force, Navy, same thing. It's like, are you really asking the right question in terms of a operational tempo? Can he meet it? He or she meet it? Yeah. Is he the right person, the right candidate? Like you said earlier, is like, we can't pick the same one every time, but we really got to consider, are they the best fit for the job or the position or the billet that we got to fill? If not, maybe next time, maybe if we give them ample amount of time, we can, or they can maybe accommodate that going to the field for a week or going to, deploy for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is that they're doing. But again, one of
the things you brought up, is Army, Navy, Marine Corps. The thing that I like about the Navy is they have, sea duty and shore duty. It gives them the opportunity to recoup, after, a hard tour. And like the Marine Corps, with Talent Management 2030, is trying to understand, like, how can we employ our forces, in the most, in the best manner that allows us to get the, the most bang for our buck, and I think with the talent management piece, we also have to realize, they can't send, Gunny G to a unit that's deploying, everywhere he goes. I mean, you can, because you want that experience, and the core and the greater good is going to benefit from it. However, again, it boils back to knowing your people. If I continue to send, hey, a Marine who's single, to a high operational tempo unit, or a single family, household, or a single parent household, should I say, to a high operational tempo unit, it's just going to cause friction, on both, needs of the Marine Corps and needs of the individual Marine, and again, we're going to find ourselves in those sticky situations. But I guess I bring up talent management to understand the scope of things, and to have those conversation and bartering tools, with your occupational specialty sponsors, your monitors, to kind of remind us that, hey, Marine Corps talked about how can we become better as a force, and these are the resources that the commandant put in place, and these are the things. Even with the homesteading piece, I feel like most Marines resent that concept. It's like I don't want to move, let you stay in Camp Lejeune, although I can progress my career. Like you said, Army, Navy, Marine Corps. My neighbor is a Navy pilot, and before coming to Pensacola, he was at his previous duty station for 12 years. Like, same location, 12 years, never moved. But again, he was able to constantly advance his career, and progress and be a benefit to the organization. And the organization found value in that. And the sailor also found value in that because, again, he was able to homestead, not have to move his family. He was able to build those bonds, but again, he has have a hard time shifting. I think anybody has, a problem with change. But again, like the talent management piece, like, hey, let me stay on Camp Lejeune. It's like, well, you've been there for 6 years. So I understand I've been here for 6 years. However, my career is advanced. I've been promoted twice. There's plenty of advanced billets for me to hold to continue to progress. But again, I think that resentment of that individual Marine, not the Marine Corps, because the Marine Corps is saying, hey, let Marines stay in places. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep them there. If that's better for the Marine and the service, cool, let's do that. But again, I think those individuals, I think those individuals, in those positions to issue those orders, need to keep that in mind. But you can't, again, you can't, duck and dodge, your responsibility to serve as a Marine, and navigate that. But the homesteading, option that's hidden in the talent management piece, I think is a good tool, but we as Marines have yet to, I haven't seen it, be used.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with you there, as I don't have any personal experience on homesteading because me and you have moved every 3. As much as I would love to stay so my daughter can finish high school, I don't think that's going to be the case here either, right? And as much as I want my son to finish a local high school here, because, military service doesn't have a high school on base unless you're in Japan, right? Or overseas in that nature. They'll probably have a local high school, a small high school that you attend. But even then, it's like, are you going to be there for 4 years? Time. It's all about timing, right? And again, just like you, I haven't experienced the homestead piece, and I haven't experienced anybody. I knew one person in my 14 years that had been in the same geographical location his entire career. And I was a little salty at first, right? Like, damn, dude, must be nice, right? That you heard that before. Must be nice. And for him, it's like flip side. I hate it. I want to move, but the monitor keeps me here. And I get it. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, sure, that you might say that now, but your kids are established. Your family's established. You have a home. You have a house. You have a home, right? We just have a place we reside in every 3 years. I think that we could do as an organization, any service, right? I think that they all do good in their own perspective, in their own accord. I think that homesteading would be nice, at least for 6 years, right? At least, yeah, and then be like, hey, Gunny Garcia, would you like to move? Does anyone ever come here? No, I'll stay. You know what I mean? Like, what's the problem?
I'll stay.
Right? How about you? If you know what I'm saying? Like, if nobody wants to come here, then what's the problem me staying, right? But that's not here. I don't know we don't know what happens in the politic field up at headquarters of the Marine Corps and that kind of side of the house. So, I'd say that homesteading should be good. It would be good, but I wouldn't know. Yeah. I kind of like the move every 3, to be honest.
Yeah, you definitely should. And I think, again, you create a bias because it's like, hey, if I'm going to be doing it, I might as well, start to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And I think you bring up a good point, with the moving. That brings up a lot of emotions, and it's just every Marine, needs to manage, their emotions on their own, whether it's a move, whether it's a job, whether it's a single parent, like, hey, I got duty. Well, who's going to watch my kid? And just the emotional, hey, we going to a WTI, out in Yuma, Arizona, for 3 months. So it's like, well, like, putting themselves in a position to understand, obligation to serve, and the obligation to be a parent. But the emotional aspect that comes with that, is very challenging and hard to navigate because, man, I think that's a tough challenge, because the position I sit in now, I have a great relationship with my son's mother. And we've always had a very unconventional co-parent relationship because we can sit down, have an honest conversation, and we can always leave that conversation knowing that we chose what's best for our son, which I'm very thankful for. Now, flip side, daughter's mom, hadn't always been on the same page. And now that we've groomed ourselves to improve that relationship, finding ways to make sure that we parents are always doing what's best for the kids, that is very challenging at times. I think that's one, strategy that, I would use, just do your best to, let go of the resentment, the frustration that comes with, that relationship with the other parent, and, find a way to heal, whether it's through time, utilizing counseling resources, your religious beliefs, and diving into that. But communication, I believe, is a great strategy. I don't have the kids. Like right now, again, my son's on spring break and my daughter's with her mom. She just left here at the beginning of the month. But again, diving into, hey, what do I like to do? I like to, go play basketball. I like to play softball. I love riding my motorcycle, and taking time to myself to enjoy those things, while I have a chance. You talked about earlier not having time to, do these kind of things. But now, I get that break, and I'm going to take it, full steam, no remorse,
That's good. G. It's a twofold question here, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. What advice can you give single parent service members that are struggling with the work-life balance? That's one, right? Give that one bit of advice right now. So that one's like, man, I can't do it. Hit it.
For me, I think you need to find a mentor. I think that we as a service are getting away from that. But find somebody like like in your shoes, have that honest conversation with them. When I was a junior Marine, I was able to connect with my staff sergeant. And now that I'm here, I have a junior NCO, and I'm able to connect with her, give her resources, to work through those things. But I think, finding a mentor it holds so much value because, again, they can teach you those life lessons before you have to learn them yourself.
Well, real quick, just time out and go just talk about life lessons. We talk about young service members, and young people in general, right? A lot of the time, though, even if you have a mentor, it's about you can only take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And so most of the time, you're going to learn the hard way because and it is what it is, right? And that's the mentality that as a leader, I think that you should have. Like, look, here's the tools. Okay, great. 2 days later, you didn't even use it. Well, it is what it is, dog. Like, that's what it is, right? But that's good, though. It's find a mentor. I think that and use them. Use that mentor applicably.
Hold the mentor accountable.
Yeah, that's good.
If they're not doing their part, have that open door communication. When I say open door, is like, hey, we can discuss anything. Like even the challenging thing, you have to let your guard down, let those conversations be had, and I think through building that community of people, and I guess to add on to that, when I'm thinking about it, community of people, whether it's, people you work with, people you live by, people you've been stationed with before, building that community of people that you can rely on. It's like, hey, I got duty. I nominated myself to take duty last minute because I know that, I have my neighbor that can watch my child. That shows that, hey, like I'm not making an excuse for my situation because we all got situations, man. I'm not making an excuse for my situation. But I have, different options and I'm going to use those so I can support the greater good, our section, unit, command, whatever you want to label it. But again, putting myself in a sticky situation, as a single parent to say, hey, I can help out. But again, putting myself in a situation, it's like, man, I'm on duty, not spending time with my child. It's like, man, it's just one of those things, that'll always be, a double-edged sword, should I say.
Yeah, that's good, man. Here's my next, not final, but here's my last question. In terms of single parenting struggles in the military, how can military leaders, good leaders, better support single parents across all ranks in all services?
Just walking in their shoes, man. Like you have the luxury of, like you said, I have a spouse at home.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, like, hey, sir, hey, Sergeant Major, hey, Master Sergeant, like, I want you to let your spouse go away, and I want you to do 30 days of just, no help.
Throw in the towel.
30 days, no help, and just like, let's see if your opinion shifts. But again, like you said, you can take somebody to water, but you can't make them drink. You can talk about, some of the struggles that come with being, a single parent, but until somebody lives it and those who have those resources stop taking them for granted,
Gee, hey, take it easy, dog. I don't take them for granted, man. We're just having a conversation.
I'm about to get a little heated now, man. I'm about to get a little heated.
I get you though, man. That's good. Like, but as a leader, I think
from an honest standpoint, obviously we can't do that, but I think taking the time to let your guard down, and it sucks to have to put yourself in a compromising situation to build that trust. But I think having an honest conversation with, I'm your sergeant right now. Hey, Gunny, just to let you know, I'm not here to complain. I'm not here to whine about, my obligation to serve and the things that come with it. But I would just ask that you as a leader, keep in mind that I do have, a son and I don't have the support resources available. So, if there is things that I need to do, I would just ask that you give me enough, headspace and time for me to plan accordingly.
You sound like an adult.
Back end. Drop that bomb on the back end. Hey, if you're ever available, let me know. Like, if you want to give me duty, are you willing to watch my kids?
You're right, dog.
Yeah, but again, that communication piece, to have those open and honest conversations, to say, hey, help. Are you willing to help me? Trusting that, hey, Gunny G, I just got here. Don't label me, somebody that I'm not, because I'm gonna just say fuck it, and I'm gonna make you believe like, hey, you see me as this, I might as well be it. And then once you learn that lesson yourself, it's like, cool, like this is who I am. I want to help you. Let me do that.
That's good, dog. Oh, we're probably going to get a lot of hate after this little, you're going to get, I'm going to get a lot of hate because you having you on, but hey, honesty is the best policy, man. We'll never know what happens on the other side of the water if we don't cross, meet in the middle, right? Cross the bridge and then see what's up and then see if you are the leader that you say you are, or even just a good person, right? You know what I'm saying? Just a good person that you say you are. Live by those values, man. I'll tell you what, one last thing. For the listeners out there, if you had one tangible item to give everybody, one tool for the toolbox, so to speak, what is it? Hey, like, look, this is what you need. This is my adversity. I don't want you going through the same thing. Here's my tool for your toolbox. Hit it.
I think praise and reprimand, like put yourself in a position. Sergeant Major Cortez Brown, man, that was his thing, man. And I was able to take that, and use that to my advantage. When Marines are doing great, praise them, but again, when Marines aren't doing the best, recommend them, hold them accountable. And lastly is just, Sergeant Major Idris Teray, he always stood with Marines, but didn't stand for their actions. Like if, PFC Smith get over here, get in trouble, pop on the urinalysis, we're not going to shun PFC Smith, and just sit him in the closet, make him stand in the corner. But again, we're going to stand with them, but we're going to remind them that, hey, we're going to give you the resources as you transition. We're going to make sure you're squared away, and things of that nature. But, again, we're not standing for your actions. Like, we don't agree that you did this. And I'm going to let you know we don't agree. But we're not just going to, throw you out in the aisle and let you hang yourself,
That's good, man. I'll tell you what, I was talking to...
Praise and reprimand and, stand with, but not for your Marines actions.
That's good. I was talking to... Staff Sergeant Demetrius Thigpen. I don't know if you heard the name or not, but talking crazy with podcasts, right? He was talking about on the flip side to that statement, though, right? He was talking about, well, if you don't shift who you are to the organization, then they're just going to boot you out, right?
Nah.
Yeah. Let me explain. Right? You are doing the things that make you look bad, is what he's talking about, right? And you keep doing those things. Well, if you don't, check yourself, right? Because it starts with self first, right? Before you can point out the finger somewhere else, then you might have to think about tomorrow, because tomorrow you might not be in this uniform, right? And so that, I think that's fair to say when you're talking about praise and reprimand. Okay, praise the Marine no matter what, but the actions have to be not for selfish reasons, but for selfless reasons for the organization, right? And personal opinions and views obviously distort the water that we should be drinking. But that's not here or there. There's different opinions for different strokes for different folks. But I would say that, to your point, I think that's pretty valid. Praise and reprimand. Look, you can only do so much wrong before somebody starts to think that you are wrong. And then maybe you should probably reconsider your job setting. You know what I'm saying? Hey, excuse me, sir. I apologize. Chief Warrant Officer Burrell. Thank you. Hey, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time and sharing some insight from your experience, right? Because nobody's going to know what a single parent struggle is unless they're a single parent. Because this guy has no idea what it is to be in your shoes. And I just want to learn, right? So that makes me a better person and a better organizational leader here, and for my Marines that I got going on here. And so I appreciate your time, your experience, and your wisdom. And to the listeners, if you struggle with single parenting, well, listen to the podcast and get some good tool, good gouge in terms of everyday life. Excuse me, sir, where can they reach you at? I know you don't do social media, but I know you just recently got a LinkedIn. Where can they reach you at if they want some more advice?
Yeah, if they wanted to reach out, have an honest conversation, honest debate, they can reach out on LinkedIn, find me there. Also, military email, just godfrey.burrell@usmc.mil. Just to have those, pinging, and behind the door conversation, just to gain a different perspective, to learn something, to teach something. I think that's always a good tool. But, if you see me walking around, stop me, have that conversation, because I know the listeners out there are going to hold me accountable, like, hey, that one thing you said, it's like, for me, I said what I said, when I said it. So if you want to have a conversation about it, let's talk about it, but again, like you said, I hope the listeners can take heed to the knowledge and to the information that's being put out there, whether you're that individual Marine or you're that Marine leader, to take, strides and steps in the right direction to make sure, we as an organization are gelling, the way we're supposed to, moving in that positive direction.
That's good, G. Hey, again, thank you for your time, for your space, for your wisdom and experience. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pit Talk, Pulling Pits and Opinions. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts and on all social media platforms. Again, this is Pit Talk, Pulling Pits and Opinions with your host, Gunny G, and Chief Warrant Officer Burrell. We out.
Pit Talk is a podcast featuring active service members who discuss their thoughts and opinions on various issues surrounding military life, current events, and history. The statements heard here are the opinions of its members and guests. These do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense and are not endorsed or sponsored in any way. Listener, viewer discretion advised.